Matt Ty, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Rudy.
How long has it been?
Since 2021. Yes. So it's
all right.
Coming
on 4 years now. Yeah, wow. Yeah. Since we last had you on the show. And you were with another parish at that point, right?
That's right. I was at St. Edward in Spring. Yeah.
And now you're at St. Faustina. And how long have you been here at St. Faustina's?
Since January.
And your job here is
I'm the Director of Liturgy.
And that was your same job
That's right.
over in your old parish.
That's right.
So you're just making kind of a lateral move.
That's right. Yeah.
We talked to you before about, your whole story, but we want to get to know you and your job. But before that, how's your family doing? You were a newlywed the last time you were on the show.
That's right. So we have a daughter now.
Uh-huh.
So she's about 3.5 now.
So was your wife pregnant during the interview or?
Just started, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
There.
Maybe you hadn't announced it yet, and maybe she was, or maybe you didn't know.
Didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So you were just a newlywed, and then she's 3.5 now.
That's right. 3.5.
Get ready to start school, huh?
Yeah. It's gonna be crazy because I don't know. I'm asking around, and it's quite a new thing. Definitely.
So it's like, do I homeschool? Do I private school? Do I go public school? Yeah, it's big decisions.
Yeah, I remember talking to your sister about homeschool. Just asking about homeschool.
Yeah, all 5 of her kids. Her oldest is now gonna go to Franciscan. She's starting
up in Ohio. Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy how time flies.
Yeah.
I mean, just 4 years ago, you were a newlywed, and now you got a kid that's gonna start school.
Crazy.
That's awesome. So tell us, what does a liturgist do?
So, so liturgist, I do want to focus on that term. The liturgist is Christ himself, right? The primary, the principal liturgist, Christ himself. Okay. And then the diocese, the liturgist, the chief liturgist is the bishop, right?
Okay.
And for this parish, for any parish really, the principal liturgist for that parish is father, the pastor.
Okay.
And so I'm not, I guess technically that term, that liturgist.
Uh-huh.
I just feel like I'm more of a director, a coordinator type of person.
Okay.
Where I help father implement his vision for the liturgy. So that includes like having meetings with him, figuring out what he wants to emphasize, what's his priority for me, for example, for the first 3 months, he wanted me to focus on the altar servers. So,
and everything that they're doing wrong and right and things like that.
That's right, just to clean it up and kind of give the parents expectations of what the altar server ministry is, and then kind of revamp that in a sense.
I had it in my head for some reason that what your job was to report to the archdiocese, like, they're doing this wrong, they're doing that wrong. That has no idea. I mean, no relation to what you do at all. You're not like an HR person that has to report to.
Not like a spy, a liturgist spy, liturgy spy. Yeah, no. Yeah, so because each parish, they have, each parish has a pastor, and it's up to him. Of course, he can't do anything that's invalid.
Yes,
that invalidates the mass, but it's up to him to figure out there's preferences, there's options in the mass that he can do or he can promote, and so it's up to the parishioners that help him and staff as well. So here, at least at St. Faustina, there's a Liturgy Council. And
what does the Liturgy Council do?
So it's made up of parishioners that volunteer their time to help coordinate the different ministries of the Mass. So, for example, Ushers, Acolytes, Lectors, EMHCs, the Extraordinary Ministers of Holy Communion. Hospitality ministry. So
all of that is under the Liturgy Council.
Yes. And I'm there as their leader in a sense. So before I came, there was a man that that volunteered his time to do that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I thought he was an employee. Trung?
No, Trung. No, man. That's the funny thing. Like everybody thought he was an employee here. No, he was volunteering his time.
Wow.
He has his own business to take care of too. So he's a businessman.
Wow.
And
Hats off to Trung.
Yeah. So
Because he was involved with so much, and he was at all the I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. And he was just a volunteer.
That's right. Yeah. So if you ever see Trung around, give us some, give him some gratitude.
I will do that for
yeah.
sure. Yeah. That's amazing.
He doesn't want anyone to know.
So Father Dat is the most in charge when it comes to liturgy at the parish level.
That's right.
Then you're kind of like his sergeant at arms, and then
like an executor, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So you kind of help implement with the help of the council.
That's right.
And then the council does like just the nitty gritty. Like, okay.
That's right. So I like to think of it like now that I have a kid, I think of it like as this analogy is where, I can be impatient and then just dress my daughter myself, just put her clothes on myself, just here's your shirt, here's your pants, just all right, now go. Or I can be patient and like teach her how to dress herself.
Okay.
So in a sense, that's what I'm trying to do with parishioners here, is that I lead by example, and I teach those who are in charge of those ministries, those coordinators.
Uh-huh.
So that way, I'm not the one imposing or in a sense, imposing.
Or micromanaging.
Micromanaging, yeah, that's right. That's
okay.
Right.
Now, let's back up for a second.
Yeah.
How do you become a director of liturgy? What do you have to take special classes or something like that? Is there a program, or do you have to have a certain degree, or?
Mostly experience.
Okay.
Mostly experience. There's a degree is a plus. So I have my master's in theological studies. I went through seminary, of course, so it was some experience there of the life of the church, the liturgical life of the church.
So it helps to be like an altar server at some point.
That's right.
Okay.
Altar server, even just a coordinator at your own parish. If you want more studies, more I guess to legitimize
but you
your
don't,
experiences.
You don't have to have a master's degree in theology to do what you do, but it helps.
No. Yes, that's right. It
okay.
helps. Because then as long as you're up to date with your knowledge of what books to use and stuff like that, yeah.
So there are whole books about the way the Mass is supposed to go.
That's right.
So you have like a manual of sorts.
Of sorts, yes. And it's one of them is called the General Instruction of the Roman Missal, the Germ.
Okay. You call it the Germ.
The Germ, yeah.
General Instruction
of the Roman Missal.
Of the Roman Missal.
Yeah. So you would say that's the primary document from the church with a big capital C, right?
Okay. So if like somebody's parish, they're like, are they doing this right? You can look at the Germ and.
Yes, you can look at the Germ and you can really read through it, and it'll tell you the specifics, or sometimes it's very general too, kind of give the pastor leeway.
Okay.
And then the archdiocese has their own pastoral manual.
Okay.
And that's what the pastors consult for the nitty gritty, the specific, like who's actually qualified to be a lector, for example, or EMHC, for example.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
And does that document have a name, or?
Just Archdiocesan Pastoral Manual. It rolls off the tongue, yeah.
Okay. Is that available online?
It's available online for clergy only.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not something that just a layperson can look up at the website?
Right.
No.
That's right.
Okay. And that I'm sure gets updated every once in a while whenever the bishop, archbishop, or the bishop has something to. Okay.
That's right. And then, of course, there's Vatican II documents, and all sorts of really beautiful documents from the church, but also like people's interpretation of those documents. Commentary, for example, like I read a bulletin. It's like a subscription, and it's called Adoramus Bulletin, and it comes in the mail quarterly, and it's really helpful to just get to up to date news about the liturgy and different spirituality of the liturgy.
Can
as
lay
well.
people subscribe to that as
Yes,
well? Okay,
yes, yeah.
just right. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not something that you have to have a certain position to.
No, it's
subscribe
available
to
to everyone that subscribes to it.
What's it
It's
called again?
Adoramus Bulletin.
Adoramus Bulletin.
Yeah, it's it comes out quarterly. It comes by mail, and it's for someone who's like really busy and can't really, go to a library and read all these documents
Okay.
and books by the church.
So it just has all the updates, different perspectives on.
Yeah, different
Liturgy and-
perspectives.
okay.
Spirituality of the Mass. How do you pray in the Mass? They even have like a little quiz sometimes, like a pop quiz. So it's really helpful.
But the germ is one that you'd recommend somebody go through if they're thinking about becoming a liturgist. That's like their quote unquote Bible, so to
speak. Yeah. And then
okay.
and then definitely ministering at a church. And get your feet wet. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You work with the pastoral council, so
The Liturgy Council?
Excuse
Yeah.
me, the Liturgy Council, and you said something about your first job here, or your first focus was the altar servers. Are we talking about what they're supposed to do during the Mass and how they do things? Is that what it is?
That's right. That is part of it, but also really helping the parents kind of understand what their kid is getting into, right?
Okay.
The time commitment, the training involved, the formation that's involved with each altar server, and to inform the parents really, this is what your kid will do at the Mass, and also there's responsibility levels for each for these kids too. We're not asking them just to be like servants at the altar, right?
Okay.
We're asking them also to be leaders of their peers, to be mentors of their peers, and so that was part of the information that I had to.
What is like the number one misconception that parents have about altar serving? And it doesn't necessarily have to be at this parish. It can be at
Sure.
In general, not even a parish that you've worked at or that you've heard about.
Yeah, it's just my kid just comes to help out at the Mass, and then they get to be close to the Father, and all that is true. But it's more than that. It's more than just you pick that up and bring that to the Father. You pick that up and you bring that to the deacon or whoever. But there's more nuances, I guess, to their duties, and at times the people in the pews don't really see that because sometimes they're behind the here at least in St. Faustina, they're behind that wall.
Yes.
And some parishioners haven't ever been there behind the wall before, so they don't know
what's back there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm with the men on the choir, so I actually, from my view, I can see behind that wall. I see everything that happens behind the wall because if I'm on a riser and I'm in the back, and I can see what's happening, and I can see them preparing. I can see the the acolytes giving them instructions and stuff like that. That's pretty much what.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then. Speaking of the choir, you guys are over there. You guys are experiencing the smoke from the incense. Definitely from over there.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's one thing that I've told people as a side note. Like anybody who has anything to do with like the building of the new church, please have the intake of the air conditioning away from the choir so that the incense just doesn't. I mean, I love the incense. It gives a great feel, but when we're trying to sing, sometimes, woo.
Yeah, you take a big whiff of that.
Big whiff of that incense, and I'm looking at the the altar server, and he's just going at it with the just standing there.
We've been instructing him to go for it. Go for it.
So that's part of it.
Yeah.
They're supposed to do that with the incense.
That's right.
Like just keep it going.
Let the smoke come out. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So they're not just playing with it, standing there.
No, that's the conception of those sitting in the pews that don't know, right?
That they're playing with it.
They're just playing with it. They're in order to let the smoke rise up in that quantity, is you got some air. You got to get some air to it.
Okay, so they can't just stand there holding it like that.
That's right.
That's wrong.
That's right.
Okay, so you said that you're talking to the parents about the misconceptions. So your kid doesn't just come here and isn't just somebody who just gets ordered around.
That's right. They don't just come here like 30 minutes before Mass, or even 10 minutes before Mass, or even 5 minutes before Mass. They come early, prepare, have a reverent frame of mind, and are ready to receive any instructions. Sometimes Mass, there's a special Mass, or there's some special instructions for that Mass. And all Masses are special, or
just out of the ordinary.
Out of the ordinary,
Okay.
That's right. And so they just have to be prepared to take those instructions and run with it. And so what we do is to give them equip them with the knowledge to adapt to those situations. Yeah.
Is there anything that would disqualify a kid from being an altar server?
Well, they have to be baptized and receive First Communion.
Okay.
So you're looking around the age of 9 years old.
Okay.
Disqualify. So
Yeah.
I guess promoting teachings that are contrary to the church.
Okay.
I guess, yeah, promoting
Okay.
ideas or behaviors, stuff like that. Yeah.
Is there anything that they could do at school and get in trouble at school? Would that disqualify them as an altar server, or that's a case to case?
That's a case to case, and especially if we get to hear about it too, because it's going to be up to the parents to disclose that.
Oh,
Of
okay.
course, yeah.
Okay. But if a parishioner comes up to you and says, "Hey, this altar server kid got in trouble for
Yeah.
whatever."
Yeah, that's right. So we'll have to talk about it with the kid, the parents, and figure out what's going on first. Yeah. Before completely dismissing
Those are tough
them. Yeah, that's right.
conversations.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we're talking about the altar server. What else do you have to be in charge of? I mean, in terms of the things that go on at the altar.
So yeah, there are a lot of details that goes into it. So all the other ministries, every ministry that's involved with the Mass has their own specific role, and that's based on they're exercising their baptismal charism, right? Because everyone who's baptized in the Mass has a role to play. So we got sacristans who set up the Mass. We've got the acolytes who serve at the altar.
Okay.
So the way I'd like to look at it is that the acolyte takes care of what's inside the sanctuary,
Okay.
during the Mass.
Okay.
And then the sacristan takes care of what's outside of the sanctuary, or to set up before the Mass and take down things after the Mass.
This is stuff that people don't see. The acolytes are things that people see, and then the
sacristan is more behind the scenes, yeah.
Who changes the colors, those types of things. That's a sacristan.
That's right. So, the colors sometimes are the acolytes, of course.
Okay.
But how many vessels that we need, how many cups, how many bowls, how much host, how much altar bread to put in there. Is there low gluten bread to take care of? Now,
so if you run out of wine, it's the sacristan's fault. Okay.
Yeah, and that's really hard to estimate, especially a parish this size, and each Mass is different. Each Mass is a different crowd. Different, for example, 10:15 is crazy crowded. It's crazy. You guys have an overflow going on in the CEC building.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah.
That once because St. Faustina doesn't have the main building yet, the big church yet, that they've got to send out a Eucharistic minister to another building.
That's right. They jump in car. They jump in a car with the sacristan driving them from the church to the CEC building, to the other building. And yeah, when
they hop off and they distribute communion.
That's right. When the church appears to be full, the ushers, they're ready to go, and they start informing people and outside of the building to drive over there or walk over there. And now with all the construction going on, it's a little bit more messy going over there.
It's very interesting because there was one day after Mass. Well, I had to meet somebody after Mass at the CEC building, in this building right now here. my wife and I said, okay, you know what we'll do is we'll go into the overflow room. We'll be the first people there. So we were at the overflow room and we're like, Mass is going to start soon and nobody's in here. Maybe they're not going to need this. Then all of a sudden, this whole crowd of people just come. I guess it's like a switch that turns off. Like once it's full in the building, they send everybody over to this building, and it's just a huge crowd. It went from being almost silent to just being extremely crowded.
Yeah. And I've never experienced something like that, to have a sacristan drive EMs over to another building. I've experienced where we have to, it's crowded in a church and there's another building. You just walk over there because it's pretty close by. But for this, every Sunday.
Yeah.
Every Sunday.
The 10:15, yeah.
10:15.
If you're late, yeah. And then it's only the bread, right? Because you can't do the wine. It's going to spill in the car, right?
The precious blood, it'll be very difficult to transport, yes.
So the sacristan's the driver.
Yeah.
So that's another behind the scenes thing. What else do they do, the sacristans?
So I inform them by way of notes before every week, and of things to look out for. For example, the readings. They set out the readings. They set the missal, the big book that the priest uses for the Mass.
If it's in the wrong page, that's a sacristan's fault.
Well, the priest would know. He'll correct it. But yeah.
Like if the priest is flipping through it, maybe the sacristan did something wrong.
Maybe, or the priest has a preference of a different prayer that he wants to do.
Okay.
So we have to look out for that too. So the sacristan, they do a lot. I mean, they do a lot for before the Mass and after the Mass, and even during the Mass too. Especially if you're working at the 10:15, if you're ministering at the 10:15, you're driving.
And then the ambo as well. What's up there for the readers? That's also the sacristan who prepares that as well. They put the bookmarks and everything there.
They put the ribbon.
The ribbon, that's what it is.
There's a ribbon there. Yeah. And then the lector comes and checks it. It's part of their training. It's part of their habit to go and check if their reading is there, if their reading is set, if they're ready to go. And then EMs, extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion, they're extraordinary ministers. So that means the ordinary ministers are the priests, deacons.
Because they're ordained.
That's right, they're ordained.
Okay.
Yeah. And the EMs, they help out because there's a large crowd. So when they come into the church, they check in with their coordinator, and then they figure out what position they're going to stand in during the Mass.
Okay. Do you have like a name for the position?
Yeah,
You're on
It's like P and C.
All right.
So it's P 1 through 8 or 9, and a C 1 through 8 or 9, something like that.
So it's assigned. It's not like whatever's available. No, you've got a position.
That's right.
Your center field, your shortstop, something like that.
That's right. Imagine if they weren't assigned.
Everybody's on one side, right?
You give the priest or deacon gives the vessels to the ministers, and if they're not assigned, they're just like, okay, where do I go now? What do I do now? Yeah.
And then I'm guessing too, it depends on how many people are at that Mass. So certain positions aren't filled for Masses that aren't so busy.
That's right. That's
okay.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And there's also a spirituality formation element to all the ministers too. It's not just a practical formation, practical information that they need to do. It's also a spiritual duty that they complete. So
do they have to go through like training?
That's right. They'll have to go through training
and formation and something.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and continued training too. It's not just one time, and that's outside the parish. That's in their own home, personal devotion, personal prayer life. Not just going to archdiocesan events or training here at the parish. They have their own responsibility to pray, to learn, and to continue learning. Yeah.
So it's not just somebody who, I want to give out the bread and wine. Let me just sign up for that. There's more to it.
That's right. And That's what I learned at St. Edward. There's a minister there. His name is Jamie, and he said something that stuck with me. He said there's a difference between a minister and a volunteer. A volunteer just gives the extra amount of time they have.
Okay.
For the church or for whatever cause. A minister gives the first fruits of their time to the church. First fruits of their time. So we are asking a lot of these ministers. We're asking them to give of their time and talent, and they have to discern, well, first off, do I want to give my time to the church? And secondly, can I? And then if they can, we're open arms. Come on, we'll train you to a specific charism that you want to exercise. If you want to be a EM, if you want to be a usher, a lector, hospitality minister, altar server, for example. Yeah.
Let's go over those. Okay, so the extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. What are your requirements to be one? You have to be baptized, confirmed?
Baptized, confirmed, fully initiated, practicing Catholic, at least 18.
Okay.
18 plus.
Okay.
Or a high school senior. And that's about to receive confirmation, after they receive confirmation.
Oh.
Yeah.
For the blood, do you have to be over 21 because you're giving alcohol?
No.
No?
both body and blood, both those distributions, it's the same requirement. Yeah.
Is there anything that disqualifies you from not married in the church, I guess?
That's right.
Is one of those
if you're married outside the church, then you can have that convalidation, get that corrected.
Okay.
And we'll bring you to the church, and then you can serve as a minister at that point after that.
Is that the most common one?
Probably because a lot of people don't know that you, as a baptized Catholic, you're required to be married in a church.
Okay.
Yeah. So then when people are inquiring about helping out at the church, like ministry positions, that's one of the things that would impede their ability to serve. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a big church mass. It can just be, like you said, convalidation. It doesn't have to be like
that's right.
Yeah.
Talk to Deacon Randy about that.
Not you. That's outside of your purview.
That's right.
Okay, so we've got the ministers of Holy Communion. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's say the host falls. What is the procedure there?
Yeah, so that minister will stop what they're doing and pick up the precious body of Christ, and then hold that body of Christ in their hand. So some parishes would instruct that, like a sacristan, if they see that happening, they will go to that minister, to that EM, to help out, to take the host.
Okay.
And sometimes, depending on how, I'm trying to phrase my words here, and depending on how contaminated that host is, there's a way of dissolving that in a bowl of water.
Okay.
And then pouring down, after it has been dissolved completely, pouring down the sacrarium. The side of the sink. Okay, so in the sacristy, there's a sink there, of course, and then there's two drains. One goes to the public sewer, and one goes directly to the ground.
Yes.
And so any sacred, precious body elements, anything that's precious in that sense, right, goes down to that drain that goes down to directly to the ground instead of going to the public sewer. And that's
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've heard about that particular drain. So there are two of them, not just one.
That's right.
So how long does that take to dissolve?
Not very long. You'd have to disturb the water. So little practical tidbits there, I guess. You have to disturb the water, because if you just leave the host in water,
that's going to take forever.
it would just be floating there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, because
we
all know the consistency of it and everything.
Yeah, so right.
I mean, I noticed the priest just drinks the remaining wine, right? Is there
the remaining precious blood is is consumed either by the extra Orans minister after distribution has completed, or by the acolyte, or by the priest, or by the deacon. So they have to do something called the purification afterwards, and that just sometimes you see this, and when you're at the mass, you'll see this at the altar, especially if it's a small mass. Not that many people there. You're not constrained by time, like a upcoming mass coming up.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about people leaving the parking lot in time for the next mass to come.
Right.
Yeah, so okay.
That's right.
That's a big problem.
That's a
in
big
St.
problem
Faustina.
here. Yeah. So then, So if you're not constrained by time, then the priest can take his time to purify the vessels, meaning to pour water, cleanse any remaining fragments or any remaining blood, and then consume the rest, and then wipe that down before taking to the dish, before taking to the wash.
Okay, so if there's no time constraint, the priest can do that. But if there is, then
that can be done after.
would...
Yeah, that purification can be done afterwards by the acolyte.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about small masses, so you underestimate or overestimate the number of people. The extra consecrated host can stay there
in a tabernacle. Yes.
But the wine has to be.
The precious blood has to
be
completely consumed. Okay. That's right.
Has it ever come to the point where it was grossly overestimated, and the priest is like, "This is too much. I can't drink all of this. Maybe could we split it among the three of us here or something like that?" Is it?
Well, the extra Orans minister of communion, they'll take care of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you don't want the priest getting drunk or anything like that, right?
Yeah, inebriated by the blood of Christ. Yes. I remember one time at my previous parish at St. Edward. Yeah, we consecrated. The priest consecrated too much because the sacristan poured too much.
Okay.
And so we had pretty much a full cup of precious blood. So so I was there. So I was like, all right, I will consume the rest for everyone. Yeah.
Were you acolyte at the time, or just
yes, acolyte? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say the blood spills. What's the procedure there?
So once again, stops everything. That minister stops everything that they're doing, stopping the distribution. And they can get help to get a purificator. So that's a rectangle shaped cloth that's used in particularly to absorb the blood of Christ, right, and any other fragments of the host. And so they'll take that, and then they'll blot wherever it's spilled, and then after cleansing it with water and the purificator, then that sacristan or that minister will take that purificator back to the
what's a purificator?
So it's a rectangle shaped cloth.
Okay.
Yes.
So cleansing it with that. Okay,
yeah, that's right.
I've seen this because when you said that again, purificator, I thought there's a spray as well. Is that just
just
cleansing?
There's no spraying. No spraying.
Was that okay? Maybe I'm imagining it.
No spraying. No.
Okay, so they wipe it down.
Yeah, they'll use water.
Okay,
and then they'll soak
water. That's what it
water.
is.
Yep, they'll use the water. Just pour water. They don't need to spray water.
Okay, does it have to be holy water? Or is it, no. Okay,
No.
so they pour water. Okay, maybe I was imagining a spray. Yeah. So they pour the water, wipe it down. So they use several cloths. I've noticed several purificators.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, and then what happens with those? Because it's got the blood on it.
That's right. So that will eventually be cleaned, be washed
in that particular sink that goes into the.
Yes and no. So we do have an altar linens ministry, and they're the ones who wash these linens. And the purificator especially needs a little bit extra steps to clean. So they will have to soak that in water first.
Okay.
In either boiling water or hot water, to get the precious blood out of the cloth. It'll just be lifted off by water, and then after they have lifted the blood off with the water in the pot, they'll have to find a place in either in their yard to dump that water.
Okay, so that doesn't happen in the sacristy.
That's right. No, that does not happen in the sacristy. Now that laundering, I guess, duty happens at the home. Yeah.
Okay, so those are the volunteers, the ministry that does that.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you sign up for that ministry, you need to know those steps.
That's right. And then most purificators would have some blood on it because
you're wiping.
They're wiping the cup. Yeah. And so after disposing of the sacred blood that's in the water, in the yard, in the ground, you don't pour that in the sink.
Okay.
So at your house, at our houses, I'm pretty sure we don't have another a drain
that goes straight to the ground. Yeah, no.
Yeah. So they would have to take care of that outside. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say I'm getting I'm getting communion, I'm getting the wine, a little spills on I should do the same thing at home.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
That's
if
right.
I get the blood on my shirt, if it spills, thank God it's never happened.
Yes.
But if that happens, that's the process.
That's right. You will soak that shirt in warm water or hot water, and then let that be lifted off first before you take your shirt to the dry clean or to the washing machine.
Yeah. And then dump that water in the ground.
That's right.
That's the procedure.
Like a ground, like your yard, like a dirt ground, not the
street,
not
the sidewalk. Yeah, no, we don't want it going into the gutter. No, it goes into the soil.
That's right, the soil. Yeah. So little details, like that.
Yeah. Because you don't want the thought of that mixing in with the sewage.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We treat all of our sacred hosts, our precious body and precious blood of Christ with dignity and care, and also by our language too. Like just listening to you've caught yourself saying wine a few times, right?
Yeah.
So just being careful treating even the words, because even words can influence what we believe, right? Yeah.
Now, what is the biggest mistake that extraordinary minister of Holy Communion? What is the biggest mistake they can make? Oh,
well, one tendency is to when you're distributing the host, one tendency is to kind of copy the priest and bless people with the host. So that's part of the instructions is to not do that.
Okay.
Because that movement with the host, that blessing with the host, is only reserved to those in holy orders.
Okay, so priests and deacons.
Yeah, and bishop. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's probably the most common one.
Okay.
Because some people come up for a blessing, right?
Yes.
They for whatever reason they don't want to receive the body of Christ or the blood of Christ that day. So the EM is instructed to just tell them God's peace or a short blessing.
Yes.
And then get them on their way.
Yes.
But if you're distributing the host, you have the host already in your hand.
Yes.
So you have this tendency to go, so yeah. So
put it down and then give the blessing and then pick. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. What about the lay person? What's the biggest mistake that they make? Taking it to the seat, I'm sure, right?
Yes, taking the host to the seat.
We've heard announcements.
Yes.
That gets you?
Yes, it does. Even we've been finding at times the consecrated host outside the church.
What?
On the floor, like even this past yesterday.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
on the floor, outside,
outside. Yeah. So
in the narthex.
In a narthex, yeah.
Don't tell me outside on the sidewalk.
On the chairs, So as a layperson in the pews, we also ask, to keep your eyes out. If someone doesn't know what they're doing, like receiving the host, then you can kind of watch that person, see if they've consumed the host or not. If they haven't, then you can stop him.
Hey, you're supposed to take it right away. Consume. Yeah, some parishes I know they make an announcement before communion to consume it there, right then and there.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
Wow. Yeah. Aside from that, is there anything really bad that people do? I'm not bad or just not proper.
Just not, when the minister presents the host or the cup to the layperson, they're saying the body of Christ or the blood of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
We would say Amen, and then receive either on the hand or on the tongue, right? So sometimes the mouth isn't open wide enough.
Okay.
It's like a coin slot.
It's like it's target practice for the minister. Okay.
Yeah, so little things that from the minister's perspective, that's what they're seeing. Not necessarily a layperson would ever really see that if you're just in the pew, right? And yeah, it's just, or one example is someone who's not catechized would take the host.
Oh goodness!
As it's being presented to you.
Yeah.
They just grab the host.
That happens.
That happens. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So typically these things happen during funeral mass or during a wedding mass.
Non-Catholics coming.
That's right.
Okay.
You have a lot of visitors come in, and at times the priest does remind the people. If you're not practicing Catholic, come up. If you want to come up to the communion line, you can come up with your arms folded on your chest and receive a blessing. Sometimes they do that, and that gets across well as well. Yeah.
Now, if the minister, they notice somebody starting to walk away, they're supposed to stop them, right?
That's right.
Okay, I've seen that happen.
That's right. Yeah, you get this awkward encounter.
Yeah.
Sir, ma'am.
You're supposed to eat, right away. You're supposed to do it here.
Yeah, you get this hand signal.
This isn't takeout, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen that. That is a very awkward situation for the minister. I've seen it.
Yes, and I'm sure it's awkward for the layperson too, especially if they're a visitor and they don't know. At one point, I wasn't a practicing Catholic. I remember going to an Episcopalian church, and I did that same motion there too. They offer communion, but it's not the body and blood of Christ. It's some sort of symbol for them. But at that moment, I was like, okay, I'll join the line too. All my friends are joining the line. I'll join the line too. So you'll get that experience as well for someone who's visiting the Catholic Church, and maybe they're following family or following friends, and their family or friends haven't instructed them, hey, just do this, or just receive a blessing. Don't.
Or maybe somebody who's gone through, had their first communion, but has so non-practicing, they've completely forgotten.
That's right.
What you're supposed to do.
That's right. Yeah.
So they just need to be reminded.
Yeah, just be reminded, or you're welcome to come to, St. Faustina offers all these classes, and you can find them in the bulletin. They're offered for everybody to come and learn more. Yeah.
Have you ever had a situation like, where, let's say somebody comes up to you and says, I want to receive the precious blood, but I'm a recovering alcoholic?
Personally, no, I haven't encountered that. But
what would you advise them to do?
Just receive the host. Just receive the host. The host contains the whole body and blood, soul and divinity of Christ. So even if you have only half of the host, if the minister has to break because there's so many people and they miscalculated the number of hosts needed, they'll break the host. But you're still receiving the whole body, blood, soul, divinity of Christ, regardless if you choose the host or the blood.
So they don't have to feel like they're being shortchanged.
That's right.
In any way.
No, you're getting the full experience. That's right.
All right. So we've got this. So we've covered the sacristans. We've covered the Eucharistic ministers. Ushers. So they're the ones who are the first faces you'll see when you come to church, right? The first few. There's hospitality ministers and ushers. They work in tandem, right? Okay.
You'll definitely see them if you're a little late at 10:15 outside in the parking lot. Like, hey, go to CC. But they're men or women that they'll have little name tags on them, and they're there to help with the experience of coming to the church, right? Where to go, where to sit. If you have questions like where's the restrooms, they'll know. They'll be the ones who answer. They're in a sense the face of Christ. They're the first ones you see. So they have to exhibit that face of Christ to you, the visitor or the parishioner.
Oh, yes.
So
they have to welcoming.
Welcoming, exactly. Yeah. Now sometimes they have to be firm because the church gets filled up real fast. So they have to be firm in telling people, we can't have people standing around in the narthex. We can't have people standing around the aisles because of fire code reasons.
Yeah.
And so they'll direct them to the other building, and they have to be firm because some people, they don't like that news.
Yeah.
And of course, you come probably 5 minutes before the mass begins, and then you're told there's no room. You have to go to another building.
Yeah.
And
that's an awkward conversation.
That is an very awkward conversation. And sometimes the usher has to be pretty firm in that interaction.
People don't realize sometimes how busy a certain mass can be.
That's right.
And they think they can show up maybe 5-10 minutes. Like here at St. Faustina at 10:15, sometimes you got to come in way early if you want to.
Yeah, at least 20 minutes before mass. Yes.
For that 10:15, 20 minutes at least.
That's right. And now the 12 o'clock is experiencing overflow. 1:45, the Spanish mass is also experiencing overflow. So
see, that's why people need to join the choir.
Yeah, you guys come an hour?
We've got extra seats beside us.
Yeah,
not a lot of men in the choir, I'll tell you that. I'm sorry, I just had to throw that out there.
There you go. Get some more men's voices. But ushers also help out with the passing around the basket for collection and assisting people with communion. So, for example, if you can't join the communion line because you're injured or you're handicapped, the usher will know to get a minister to you. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So there's a procedure there as well.
That's right.
All right. Yeah. I've noticed the doors of St. Faustina, only the front are unlocked. That's on purpose, right? So the people have to come in through.
That's right.
A certain.
So yeah, two reasons really. One, you could say everyone has to enter through the main doors because that's where you get to experience the holy water, the baptismal font. Everybody can remind of themselves of their baptism when they come through the front because that's where the font is.
Okay.
And then the second reason, of course, is a security reason, right? You don't want anyone just to pop in through any doors of the building. You want to have visibility of everyone coming in through the same direction. Okay. And so there's a twofold reason there.
Hospitality, ushers. Have I missed anyone?
There's you got the EMHCs, sacristans, lectors.
Lectors.
Yes. So they are the ministers that proclaim the word of God. So that means they have to be prepared way in advance through prayer and also practically, right? You can tell when someone walks up there and that's the first time reading that. All right. The funny thing is, like in Easter season, we read from the Acts of the Apostles, right? And you have to be careful with your dictation, right? Your pronunciation. So
you got to be careful with that. Okay.
Yeah. So preparing in advance, it's very imperative for the lector.
Yeah, pronunciation is a big thing. Yes.
Yeah, and we have a great demand for other ministries like ushers, hospitality ministers, EMs, sacristans, altar servers. We have great demands for all of those, except lectors.
Everybody wants to be a lector, huh?
A lot of people want to be a lector, but there's, at each mass, there's only 2 readings, right? Sometimes there's 2 readings at most masses.
Yeah.
And so that requires 2 different lectors. And so with 7 masses on Sunday and Saturday here, you've got 14.
So that's still quite
it's still quite a lot, yeah.
But you still have a lot of people who still want to do it.
Right, because we would like our lectors to serve at least twice a month. And so
just to keep the practice
that's up, right. Yeah. Keep the habit, keep the preparation up, keep the quality of proclaiming the word of God at as high as possible. So if you want to be a lector, we have a discernment period. We're going to have that coming up soon, but we highly encourage looking into other ministries.
Because there's a need in the other ministries.
There's a definite need.
In all churches, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Speaking of getting it prepared, I just remember a story with my son when he was a preteen, and it was one of the children's masses, and he was singing the psalm, and the wrong music was up on the thing the very first time. And one of the first times he did it, he hadn't gotten to the practice of checking it.
Yeah.
Oh, he remembered from then on.
That's right. Mistake is the greatest teacher. Yes.
Yeah.
That's partly how I learned too. I remember volunteering as a sacristan and then I didn't light the candles, and the mass started, and I was like, the candles look lit. I'm not sure. So as I get closer to the sanctuary, it was not here, but as I get closer to the sanctuary, candles are not lit. So I was like, oh no one notices. But I light a wick for an altar server. Just go up there during the Gloria. It'll look like it's part of the ritual. Just go up there and light the candles for me.
I mean, it's better than it not being lit the entire time.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the biggest, let's say you're visiting I'm sure, you've got this hat on, you've got all this experience, you visit other churches. What is the biggest thing that irks you the most that you see happening at other churches or at any church? It's like your pet peeve.
It's just in a sanctuary, I like order. So if everyone's like looking at each other, not knowing what to do, that's probably my biggest.
Oh, it's very disorganized.
That's right, disorganized. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in terms of practices, or like something that they're doing wrong that you see happen most often or have heard about.
Yeah. I try not to get into that, I guess.
Okay.
Primarily because at the Mass, it's the highest prayer of the church, and we want to, at least for myself, I need to try to focus on prayer. And it's distracting at times.
So you have to fight against that urge.
I have to fight, yes. I remember before seminary, before my seminary education, Mass was Mass. I mean, I didn't know anything about it. And so I just kind of took in what I saw. It wasn't until after that I was like being picky and being distracted and
the minutia.
That's right. That's right. So it's really difficult, but it's something that I need to overcome, and it's an ongoing journey, of course. Yes. Yeah. So I try not to dwell upon
but I'm sure it's tough though.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a struggle, just people like you who know that much about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Do people come up to you and say, hey, they're doing this wrong, it needs to be,
Yes. And I appreciate the input. I appreciate the input. I like listening to parishioners. But yes, it does become quite scrupulous at times if it's a constant, like, oh, they blinked wrong, or they walked wrong or something, and of course it's all in a good heart, because we all experience the Mass, right? We're all praying at the Mass, and that's what we see. Mm-hmm. And our opinions and preferences come out. I have opinions and preferences too.
Yeah.
And but I have to be reminded often that it's the pastor. This is I'm here as a servant for the pastor. Mm. It's not about promoting what I want, but helping kind of like helping with those ministers, kind of have order, know what they're doing, have proper roles, proper responsibilities taught to them, so that they can execute their ministries well and with reverence. That's the goal of all of that.
Not promoting what you want.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
This is one thing that a lot of people talk about. Raising your hands during the Our Father.
Yeah.
What is the official word? I'm sure you've read about it. People have spoken to you about it.
So that's called the Orans position, the
Yes.
Orans posture, and that's only reserved for the priest. So the people in the pew, our roles and responsibilities to not have that posture, because that's reserved for the priest. We'll just have our hands in prayer hands, mm-hmm. or even holding hands with your family. That's all right.
Just as long as you're not doing that.
That's right.
I think a great rule of thumb, and correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody told me once this, and it stuck with me. If you don't know what you're supposed to do, look at the deacon and do what the deacon's doing.
Yep.
Okay.
The deacon, the altar servers,
Do what they're doing.
do what they're doing. Yeah. And that's part of the role of an altar server too, is to express to the people, this is how you're to act. So if they're distracted, if they're disinterested, if they don't want to be there, if they're playing with their cincture, then it kind of gives the permission to the laity. You can disregard this mass. It doesn't matter.
It's not that serious.
It's not that sacred. It's not that important.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a good altar server or acolyte, if there's no deacon there at that particular mass, the people in the mass, the congregation can look and see, okay, that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm being careful with my words only because I do have my own opinions and my own preferences, and that doesn't express the opinions of Father Dad, right, or the pastor, right,
or the archdiocese.
The archdiocese, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound like I'm like stepping on eggshells when I'm talking about the liturgy, but it's just the liturgy is the highest, right? The Mass is the highest prayer of the Church, and we should do everything that we can to elevate its reverence by what we can do as ministers, as parishioners.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah.
Okay, I just thought of something.
Yeah.
I lived in the Philippines for a while. I've seen this happen, especially among much older people, praying the rosary during Mass.
That's a devotion, and those types of prayers can be done outside of the Mass. At the Mass, since it's the highest prayer of the Church,
you're supposed to focus on the Mass.
Focus on the Mass.
Okay.
And so, kids get bored. Adults get bored. But if you learn more about the Mass, the prayers, read Adoremus Bulletin, for example. Read the church documents, like Sacrosanctum Concilium. Read the Germ. You'll find that every little detail was well thought out, and the more you know, the more you can appreciate the beauty. But also, there's a two-sided thing with that, right? The more you know, also you might get agitated by little mistakes here and there. But really, in general, the more you know, the more you're formed in the liturgy, the more you can appreciate its beauty. Yeah.
Thank you so much. God bless you, and I wish you and your family the best.
Thank you, Rudy. Thanks for having me. This is really awesome. Thank you.